Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Financial Wellness for Women Entrepreneurs. My name is Michelle Eisenberg, and I'm a program assistant here at the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center. And for those of you who may not know, the NASDAQ Center is a nonprofit building a better path for entrepreneurs worldwide by improving inclusion, access, and knowledge in entrepreneurship. So as you will see in the chat in a moment, the NASDAQ Center provides programs, resources, and exceptional mentorship to entrepreneurs across all races, industries, and geographies. So definitely make sure to check out those links and resources in the chat. And then just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. First, let us know where you are dialing in from in the chat. We always love to connect. And second, we are going to open up for live Q&A at the end of the event. So please make sure to submit your questions for us in that Q&A function at the bottom of your screen throughout the presentation, and we will try our best to get to all of them. And of course, none of what we do could be possible at the center without all of the amazing support from our sponsors, including NASDAQ, Lehigh University, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Wells Fargo, the Nareit Foundation, Walmart.org, JP Morgan Chase, BPM, HubSpot for Startups, and Google Cloud. We are humbled by their contributions and hope you are grateful too. And so before we get started, we always like to launch a couple polls to step back and see how everyone here is doing today. This first poll is going to ask, how are you feeling? Fearful, anxious, surviving, or optimistic? How are you feeling about your business? We'll give it just a couple moments for folks to respond here. Thank you, thank you. Awesome. We'll give it one more moment. All right. I am going to end this poll and share these results. All right. It looks like optimism coming up in the lead. Always great to see. You definitely have some feelings of anxiety and surviving as well. So hopefully this shows you that whatever you are feeling, you are not alone. And I'm very confident that our conversation today will help address some of those anxious feelings. So I'm going to stop sharing this poll and launch that second poll. What is keeping you up at night? Is it finance, sales, marketing, scale, pivot, team, or surviving? And this one just helps us understand your current needs as an entrepreneur so we can make sure the programs and resources we're developing are meaningful for all of you. Awesome. We got folks from Georgia, Tennessee, Denver. Lots from Georgia, Maryland, Alaska, Washington, Illinois, California, North Carolina, DC, Baltimore, Pennsylvania, more California and Illinois. Welcome. So great to have folks dialing in from all over the place. Alabama, welcome, welcome. All right, New Jersey. Awesome. All right, I'm going to give this poll one more moment. Trinidad and Tobago, welcome, welcome. So great to see you all here. All right, I'm going to end this poll and share these results. All right, finance coming up in the lead. Very fitting for our conversation today, but looks like we got needs mostly all across the board. So thank you all so much for participating. Super helpful. I'm going to stop sharing that poll, and without any further delay, please join me in giving the warmest welcome to our special guest, Holly Morphew, wealth coach and for high impact leaders. Holly, so excited to have you here. This is such an important topic, and I know we have so many women entrepreneurs in the audience that are ready to kind of kick off the new year with their, finances in order and the right mindset to kind of keep that going. So this is such an important conversation.
Oh, thank you so much, Michelle. And thank you so much to the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center for inviting me to speak on this important topic. It is a new year. It's very exciting. My intention for today is share with you potentially a new way to think about money that's more empowering for you. And how does your personal finances interweave into your business? So that's where we're going to go today. As Michelle mentioned, I am a personal finance expert. I'm the author of the book Simple Wealth and an accredited financial counselor. And in my day job, I'm a seven-time entrepreneur myself. And when I retired out of running businesses and consulting for businesses, I asked myself, what do I want to do in the world? Because I'm one of those lifelong learners, and positive impact is important to me. And I created my company, Financial Impact, in 2016, and it has just been a total blessing in my life. I want to give you some freebies, some free resources. I feel like financial education should be free. So I'm going to be sharing with you some ways that you can get started building wealth, because that's what the whole money game, in my opinion, is about, is how can we build wealth so that you can set yourself free when you want to be free. And I'll share with you my personal story here in a minute. Michelle, shall I just jump right into it, or do you want to kick us off
Yeah,
with the first
yeah, normally
question?
I'd have you kind of introduce yourself first and then we can kind of jump into those, key topics.
Wonderful. Well, what I'll share is the wealth journey ebbs and flows. And there is no such thing as perfection when it comes to money and when it comes to wealth building and personal finance. And I'm no exception to that. I have my own sort of story of how I ultimately became a financial coach. It wasn't, when I graduated from college, I want to be a financial coach. My professional background is in, as I mentioned, entrepreneurship, real estate investing, and corporate finance. And corporate finance is different than personal finance, is different than taxes and bookkeeping. We'll be talking about why. But really, my wealth journey began when I was 20 years old. I was diagnosed with a chronic illness. I needed very expensive medication, which until I moved to the East Coast, my very first job out of college, I went to University of Colorado at Boulder, moved to Boston with my three best girlfriends, and got a great job working in real estate, and everything was great until I got sick. So I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, which is chronic. It's characterized by periods of flare and periods of remission. Well, I went into a flare. I needed the medication, but my insurance didn't cover it. My insurance was $5,000 a month. So I used credit cards to pay for that. And, years passed, I moved back home, lived with my parents for a few months just to sort of eliminate that big expense of housing. And life went on. And it wasn't until I was in probably my mid 20s. I live in Denver, Colorado. At this time, I was working in real estate, and my office was 40 miles from my house. At the time, I drove a Honda Accord, and we had three back-to-back snowstorms within about 4 or 5 days. And I remember calling my boss, and I said, I don't think I can make it into work today. I mean, our whole state was shut down, but our offices were open. And she said, well, if you don't come in, you're fired. And at this time, I owned a house. I bought my first house when I was 25. I had the credit card debt from the medication and, just lifestyle. And then I was doing what I call mental accounting at the time, where I had an idea of what was coming in and I had an idea of what was going out, but I wasn't really looking at my money, and I certainly wasn't telling it what to do. I was kind of like hoping and praying that I'd get that next commission check or have a really big month and I'd be able to pay off the credit cards and pay all my bills. And when I faced potentially losing my job that day, first of all, I did go to work. I did risk my life to go to my job. I made it home safely at the end of the day and decided for the first time after a few years that I was going to look at my credit card statements. And I discovered that I had $67,000 of credit card debt. And I was living paycheck to paycheck. There was always more month than money. I was always waiting to get paid so I could pay my bills. And I had this financial stress and anxiety that was just sitting on my shoulder all day, every day. It was there in every single relationship, every single conversation. Every time I said yes to doing something fun and spending a little bit of money or a lot of money, I was constantly feeling anxiety, and I didn't like that feeling. So the next day, I called my financial advisor and I asked him for help. And he listened. And then he asked me, how much more money do you want to invest? And that was my big light bulb moment. Now, this was around 2006. And what I realized is that what a financial advisor helps us do, which is helps us invest and protect money that we already have, is very different than what I do today as a financial coach, which is help you create more money to invest starting where you are financially right now. Now, at the time, financial coaching as an industry didn't exist. I'm the first, if not one of the very first financial coaches in the country. And so from that moment, I decided to become intentional about how my money was flowing and what I was doing with it. And I just wanted to be free. I wanted more choices and freedom in my life. So I created a system based on studying business in college, based on what I had learned in entrepreneurship and real estate investing, and I applied it to my personal finances. 3 years later, I was completely debt free. And then I kept going. And in my 30s, I reached early financial independence. And so that system now is called the financial impact system. That is what my book, Simple Wealth, lays out, is how you can go from, where I was, which was in a mountain of debt, to ultimately building wealth for yourself and setting yourself free. So that's my why behind financial coaching. I always say wealth is for everyone, and wherever you start, that's all that matters. It is perfectly okay to be wherever you are because the wealth spectrum is infinite and money is also infinite. We'll be talking about that. So that's a little bit about my background and how I came to call financial coaching my number one priority in terms of, what am I doing to make an impact in the world?
Yeah, so wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that, just pieces of your story. And I know that there must be so many women in the audience that can resonate with pieces of that story. And just to dive a little bit deeper to like, this common thread, of why personal financial wellness is so important for women entrepreneurs. I'm curious about the role what your thoughts are on the role of that kind of focusing on personal financial wellness and how that you know goes actually hand in hand with your business growth and stability and your business financial wellness.
Well, they're different. They're different. And we start businesses for so many different reasons. Some of us are starting a business because we want to make money. Some of us are starting businesses because we have this amazing idea and we want to see it manifest in the world. There are so many different reasons to start a business. And some of you may be in business because that is your job. Some of you may be in business and you're doing something else, sort of moonlighting. What I want you to know is that, if you've started a business to pay yourself because you want your business to grow and this is going to be your primary source of income, in that case, your business's job is to pay you. Your business's job is to make money. So never lose sight of that, right? Unless you have, a lot of funding and, this isn't your first rodeo and that kind of thing, and you've got income from another source, that's amazing. For most entrepreneurs, especially those entrepreneurs who are bootstrapping their business, that's not the case. You need to make money. And I'm in a circle here in Denver where I live of entrepreneurs who are pretty well established and they're multi-entrepreneurs like I am. And I was listening to a speaker a couple of weeks ago who was talking about how, when he sold his last company, he was either the CEO or the chief operating officer, I can't remember, and he wasn't paying himself.
Mhm.
And for the buyer of his company, they said, well, this is an important line item because whomever we bring in needs to get paid. And so it's something for you to keep in mind is that if your intention is to sell your company, there needs to be a line item for an income for whomever is going to take over the role that you have.
Yeah. Ah, so insightful. And I know we have so many women entrepreneurs in the audience that are somewhere on that pathway to paying themselves or at least transitioning to entrepreneurship full time. And so, thinking about, that as kind of future state I think can be helpful in kind of, setting goals and staying on the right path financially. And just having kind of that mindset where you can kind of ov overcome those difficult periods or push through them. So awesome. And something I want to touch on specifically because I know we have entrepreneurs that have kind of asked about this is like, how how does your when you're talking about credit, how does your personal credit, what's kind of the role in of personal credit in securing funding or making business decisions? And what steps can entrepreneurs take to improve their credit standing wherever they may currently be?
Yeah, credit is truly it's just a snapshot of a moment in time. Your credit reports and your credit score are not just sitting somewhere on a server. When you apply for credit, all of the data that goes into creating a credit score gets pulled together into a score and into a report. So every single day, based on when your lenders are reporting to the credit bureaus and whether you pay minimums or whether you pay more than the minimums or the full balance of your loans each month, all of that it's getting reported on a daily basis. So if you've had some negative items on your credit report, don't fret. It's not the end of the world. Yes, it will stay on your credit report for 7 years. That is true. But the longer negative items are in the past, the less they affect you. So don't get caught up in the number. Truly, credit is more. I used to be a certified credit repair counselor back in the day. I've been a financial coach for 19 years. I started teaching personal finance as a service project through Rotary International because I realized in my 20s that my friends were having a different experience with money than I was because I grew up in a family of my dad's an entrepreneur, his dad was an entrepreneur, my mom's a real estate investor, her mom was a real estate investor. So we talked about money. So meanwhile, I was doing mental accounting and kind of letting my money go wherever it was going, not in the right direction. I still had the knowledge. And so, how we apply the knowledge, if we apply the knowledge, that's a component of financial capability is the willingness and the discipline to actually tell your dollars what to do. And we're going to get into that. I want to kind of give you just the financial impact system quick, and then I'll give you some resources as well so that you know how to implement this system so that you can start building wealth. But coming back to credit, again, it's very different than business credit. So if you have a startup or you have a company where you know that you're going to need to invest in some inventory or you need to fund something in your business to make it grow, keep that business credit separate. So the way to establish business credit is through your EIN number, your employer identification number, which you get through the IRS. So once you've established your entity in your state, once you've done that, then you can take that at whether you became an LLC or an S Corp or a C Corp, you can take that paperwork to the IRS and get your EIN number. And then when you apply for loans, only give them your EIN number. Most lenders want your social security number because they want you to be personally liable. I don't recommend that you do that because any loans under your personal social security number will also be put on your personal credit reports, TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. So keep them separate. Also, I will say what's great about business credit is that if you have established your entity as an LLC, if God forbid the worst thing happens, and in personal finance, we're always planning for the worst and hoping for the best, right? Let's say that your company, it goes out of business for some reason or another. All of the debt under your EIN number goes with it. But if your company, you decide to dissolve it or you sell it or whatnot, the debt is still on your personal social. So that's why we want to keep them totally separate.
Yeah. So important. And I know we get so many questions, about like what's the balance, but it kind of, seems like it's best to kind of just fully keep it separate and focus on, maintaining strong credit separately, both personally and for business. Um, Wonderful. And so just to kind of circle back, I'd love to hear a little bit more, about the system that you've created and how entrepreneurs can kind of formulate their own system for prioritizing expenses and allocating limited resources, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so let's look at them separately because again, your business finances are different than your personal finances. And I
Mhm.
do recommend that you keep them separate. That's also great for, tax auditing reasons. If you want to sell your company, they're going to want to see that all of your business expenses came out of, your business account, not out of your personal account. It sort of muddies the water when you integrate them. So that's kind of action step number one. If you've got personal money coming out of your business account and vice versa, separate them. That will be powerful for you if and when you want to sell your company. It's also powerful because what's important in building wealth is to become loanable. And when I say becoming loanable, what I mean is that there's going to be a point in time where you want to buy a new car, you want to move into a new house, maybe you want to get a mortgage. And what they're going to be looking at is your income, your personal income, your personal credit score. And of course, keeping those separate will help underwriting make the decision to give you a loan or not. So that's another thing to keep in mind is that, we want to make ourselves loanable. We want to show that income and we want to show that income as say, you've got a business account and, as an entrepreneur, it's always an ebb and a flow. Some months are great and some months are slow. That's just the reality of it. So don't fret about that. Just know that, you know, I don't teach traditional budgeting. I think budgeting is for the birds. Who is going to take the time to reconcile their account to the dollar every month? Pretty much no one. So, what I teach is spend planning. Okay. So, at the end of the month, you may be positive in your business revenue. You may not. If you've got some money to move into your personal account, that's a distribution. That's a good thing. We want to give ourselves distributions. If you can't give yourself a distribution, don't worry about it. But that's a way for you to keep your business and your personal finances separate is just transfer money from your business account into your personal account if you're not already giving yourself a paycheck.
Mm. Yes, and that can be so, challenging for entrepreneurs, it's when you have limited runway and, that there are so many needs to address for the business itself. But taking that first step is so important. And yeah, wonderful, really insightful. And so digging a little bit deeper, I'm curious about, some of the tools or frameworks that you found to be successful for, both personal and business uh finances in terms of just, tracking and managing expenses and just overall ensuring that women entrepreneurs can stay on top of their financial well-being. Are there specific tools or frameworks that you've found to be valuable?
Yeah, definitely. So I want to give you that first resource. So when you are looking toward some financial goal, whether that's, I need more income, I need to get out of debt, I need more money in the bank, the first step is awareness. Awareness is the seed of transformation. So that is where we begin. So when I realized, oh my gosh, I'm living paycheck to paycheck, I've got all this debt, I cannot work anymore. I was already working 70 hours a week. I wasn't adding more income at that time. So the first 2 years of crushing my debt, and that's what I call it, crushing my debt, because I was paying the least amount of interest while paying my debt off as fast as possible. So what I did, the very first step I took was to create awareness. And how did I do that? I began to calculate what I call your impact number. And your impact number is the most important number in your personal finances. It is where all wealth building begins. And all it is every 30 days, your income minus your expenses. If you take the time to calculate your impact number, you will know two things. You will know your income and you will know your expenses. And most people have no idea where their money is going. That is just the truth of it. And that's why most Americans are in debt. I mean, I can kind of spout off some of the statistics, but in general, most Americans don't have $1,000 in the bank. Most Americans, 50% of it, actually 60% of Americans are carrying household debt. So, and the only reason is because we're living in an attention um, society where attention is the commodity. Attention is what everyone wants, and we're hungry and we're stressed and we have businesses to run and we have family and we have self-care and so many things. And so advertisers, retailers, marketers, they know this. And so they're very good at getting us to say yes to spending. We're also living in an environment where credit is easy to get. So you have to be the advocate for you. No one else is going to do that for you. So if you're willing every 30 days, at a minimum, every 30 days, to take the time to calculate your impact number, then you will know where your money is going and it will give you power. This isn't about beating yourself up because you spent too much money. It's not about that. It's about choices. Did I spend $1,000 on food last month? Maybe this month I'm going to spend 800 and take that extra 200 and put it into my business or put it toward my debt crush or put it in the bank. It's just about knowing which levers to pull. And the only way we know what levers to pull is by tracking our money. So I want to spend a little bit more time, if that's okay, Michelle, talking
Yeah.
about your impact number because this is truly the most important thing you could do. And I'll just drop this resource right now. You can get it now or you can get it later. My website is financialimpact.com. Under the freebies tab, there is a PDF. You just, put your name and your email in, and it's called Discover Your Impact Number. It will walk you through how to calculate your impact number. So that's your first freebie. Now, here's the thing, and this is why the people think about finances the water is sort of muddy because you've got different financial professionals saying, do it this way. I don't Personal finance isn't black and white. This is very much art. So when you're listening, you're probably thinking, well, Holly, I don't know what my income is going to be. And what I project my income to be might be different than what it actually is. And that is true. That is reality. And that is why I teach spend planning. So, our past is the best indicator of what will happen in the future. So, as an example, you might look back at your past 12 months of income and just take the average. All we want to know is what's the average amount of income that you bring in each month, because each month your impact number is going to be different. Because the truth is that every month income and expenses are different. So when you have your money dates, this is the resource number 2. There's a money date guide that you can get. Well, what should I be doing when I have a money date? I don't even know. You're going to find that there's the looking forward. This is my projection. This is my plan. This is what I think is going to happen. This is what I want to happen. And then there's the looking back at, well, what actually happened? And what we're doing when we have that money date is we're marrying those and we're getting a sense of what your impact number is going to be. So don't worry if it's changing all the time. It is. Let's just accept that. let's just flow with life's even if you get a regular paycheck, your income and expenses are still going to be different every month. So use your past 12 months as a template for what you can reasonably expect is going to be your average monthly income.
Mhm.
And do the looking forward. This is my plan, and do the looking back. So now I'm going to share with you, and I know I'm going fast. So, Michelle, if you're watching the chat and I need to slow down, please let me know.
I think we're good.
Okay. Resource number 3. I call it a wealth strategy. Now, this is another freebie that you can get, and all it is an Excel spreadsheet that I have been using and refining over the past 19 years now that I've been teaching personal finance. And in that wealth strategy, some people might look at it and say, but Holly, this is a budget. It's not a budget. What you will find is that it is your average monthly expenses and your average monthly income. At the top, you can put your income sources. Underneath that are your assets. We'll talk about that in a minute because the whole point of this money game is to grow your assets, which are things that you own. It's your savings accounts, your retirement accounts, your investment accounts. It could also be your home, your car, things of value that you can sell. But in general, the whole point is when money comes in, we put a little bit into assets. Then we build our lifestyle around that. So you'll see that expenses are underneath your assets. And your wealth strategy will automatically calculate your impact number for you. Your average income minus your average monthly expenses is your average monthly impact number. So again, I want to just pause, check in. How's everyone doing?
Thumbs ups, thumbs downs, all those things in the chat. Um, Wonderful. Oh, love this. Amazing. All right. So, I think, I just want to quickly acknowledge, like it's so wonderful to like, hear you acknowledge, like it can be so difficult, like in the society that we live in, where there's so much pressure to make these decisions around the way that we spend money. And, this strategy that you shared, it's like, increasing our own awareness and around the money that we have, at our home is empowering, and it's like you're kind of taking back control as an entrepreneur, which can feel empowering in and of itself. So thank you so much for acknowledging that and just emphasizing that. Um, Wonderful. And so um, I want to quickly touch on this because I know we get questions, about, risk and what the role and uh what role risk taking really plays in financial decisions. And so for women entrepreneurs in particular, how can they leverage risk to, support wealth generation while ensuring that they maintain stability and avoid overextending themselves? How can they find a right balance with risk taking?
So this is a great question, Michelle, and I'm so glad that you asked it because in personal finance and in wealth building, we do not take risk until we have secured our own financial stability.
Mm.
And the reason that I say that, it's kind of like the abundance spectrum, if you will. And if anyone has ever done any psychotherapy or trauma therapy, we know that in order for us to go to the highest, frequency emotion of bliss, joy, love, deep connection, creativity, first, our nervous system needs to be calm and in a healthy state. So don't skip the security piece. It is very important. And so we must create security in order to create abundance and in order to be able to take risk. So let me explain that a little bit further. When we're building wealth, there are only 4 pillars of wealth, and we build them in order because first we want to create security, then we begin taking risk. So I'll share with you, when do you start to take risk? Okay. Pillar number 1 is maximize cash flow. That's what we just talked about. Increase income, decrease expenses. We could spend a whole hour talking about, well, how do we increase income and create additional revenue streams? We're going to table that for right now because we all want to make more money, right? Like, let's just accept that. We all want more money. What you do with the money that you currently have, that's what matters. So let's table the more money for a later date. And as I mentioned, when I was eliminating my debt and I was so focused on how can I set myself free in this very scary situation. I mean, I was living in a house of cards, metaphorically. If I didn't go to work that day, I wouldn't have been able to pay my mortgage. I could have potentially lost my house, maybe not able to pay my car payment, lost my car. I mean, these are real things. So first I had to create security. So how did I do that? I started looking at how can I increase my impact number? Okay, well, I can decrease my expenses. I had control over that. Reducing and eliminating expenses. It's not fun. Let's just accept that. You have to be willing to be uncomfortable for a little
Yeah.
while. I mean, I was uncomfortable for 3 years. It took me 3 years. I would pick a penny off the street and put it in my piggy bank because when you have debt, I call them the little dollars. They really matter because credit card interest rates are, somewhere around 20% all the way up to, 30. You might have a great card at 12 or 15, which is great, but that's still high interest. Anything above 6% is high interest. So first, we focus our energy on the impact number and how can you increase it. So earlier I was talking about, okay, when we have this money date, what the heck are we doing? We've got a wealth strategy now. We've got a place where we can put our expenses and our income. But how do we actually look back? How do we know what's really happening? And this is important. Using some kind of technology like a spend tracker is eye-opening. And again, this isn't an exercise in beating yourself up because, for me, I bought another pair of black tights. Like, how many do I really need? It's really about seeing what I've done so that I can make new choices. So I'm going to put in the chat my favorite spend tracker. And there are lots of spend trackers out there. There's Tiller is what I recommend. Tiller is the most affordable spend tracker. It's the most robust. It's the one that gives you the best view into your personal finances. You can see your monthly, you can see your yearly, you can see every transaction in one place. It is amazing. Like I cannot say enough good things about Tiller. I know the founders of the company. I've been using it for years. It's an amazing resource. There is also app-based spend trackers. I don't love app-based spend trackers because they're kind of a pain, in my opinion, to use, but you might like them, and that's okay. There are many ways to do this. So take what you love and throw the rest out. That is okay. So when you're having your money date, you're also looking back at where did my money actually go? That's it. And you're getting a sense, a set point, an emotional response to, ooh, I don't know if I want to do that again. Next month, I'm going to do this.
Mhm.
And we're creating security when we're doing this. We're starting to see, oh, if I make just an extra couple $100 a month, I can be debt free a year faster or whatnot. So we've talked about pillar number one, maximizing your cash flow. Now we know how to do that. We've got the tools. Pillar number two is to eliminate debt. And when I say eliminate debt, I'm not saying debt is bad because it's not. Debt is not bad. Debt is a tool, and debt is a tool that you might use to grow your business, and that is okay, especially if you're opening up a business line of credit under your EIN. You do that. We buy the cars, we buy the homes, we invest in our business. In our country, we use credit to get things that we want and need, and that is okay. The only thing that I want to say about debt and why it's a high priority is because it's expensive. So that is why we eliminate debt first. And once you're debt free from, let's just say, high interest debt, your cash flow is going to go up. And then you can breathe. Then it's like, okay, I'm going to be okay. Pillar three is strategically save.
Mhm.
When I say strategically save, what I mean is that it matters how many accounts you have, and it matters where your money lives.
Mhm.
So I want your money to live in a high yield savings account because right now those yields are somewhere around 4, maybe a little bit higher than that percent. And by the way, yield on a savings account is just another way to say a return on an investment. High yield savings accounts are online banks that are usually subsidiaries or affiliates of brick and mortar banks. Brick and mortar banks are not able to offer these competitive yields. So if you have a savings account at any of the big banks, brick and mortar, probably your yield is point zero something, which is pretty much nothing.
Mhm.
So we're not going to keep our money there. Maybe a little bit of money, a little account that's your overdraft kind of thing. That's fine. But the majority of your savings, I want it living in a high yield account. And you can go to bankrate.com. I'm not affiliated with Bankrate. I love Bankrate. This is a consumer centric website. Everything there is vetted for the consumer. It's the best financial institutions and products for the consumer right now. You can click on banking savings, high yield savings accounts, and it will pull up the top high yield savings accounts for January of 2025. You choose the one that you want. Once you've opened that account, which will take, 10 to 15 minutes, then you can connect where you do your personal checking to your high yield savings account. So it's easy to move money in between them. Okay. Again, I'm going to pause. I just gave you a lot. How are we doing?
Let me see. I'm looking through that we have any questions. Um, okay, these look like qu separate questions. So I think we're good. I see we love Bankrate in the chat. Great tips. Wonderful. I think we're great. Awesome.
Okay, I'm going
Oh,
to
can
move
you
into
repeat
pillar.
pillar two, please?
Yes, pillar two is eliminate debt.
Okay.
So we've got maximize cash flow, eliminate debt, strategically save, and the last pillar of wealth is create residual income.
Hmm.
This is where we're ready to start taking risk. And inside that pillar of creating residual income, this is where your retirement accounts live. This is where your investments live. And this is where any other streams of income that you want to create live. And we do this after we're debt free. We've got some money in the bank because we need that security. We need to know from a nervous system perspective, once we feel safe, then we're open, then we're curious, then we have the energy and the capacity to go and build that business and to really refine that income stream for the business.
Mhm.
So within that residual income, our goal then is to maximize our retirement accounts because they're tax advantaged, which is amazing. And once you've maximized your retirement accounts, then you're ready to start investing in the market. So if you don't have debt freedom and you don't have savings yet, don't worry about investing. Don't worry about it. The highest and best use of your dollars right now, mathematically, is to eliminate the debt and get some money in the bank.
Yeah, amazing. And I love that it's kind of just these simple pillars that entrepreneurs can use as almost like a checklist, and when they're kind of evaluating their own expenses and income. So this is so wonderful. We have a quick question I see in the chat, and I don't I wonder your thoughts on this, but this person is asking, where do we find a good business checking account? And yeah, I guess I'm just curious on like, best practices around choosing the right, business checking account or savings even.
Yes, and I love that this person asked this question because it does matter. Technology is important because you are busy entrepreneurs, and the whole point of the financial impact system and sort of my mantra in life is let's keep it simple because I want to go play. I want to make money and I want to play. So, how can I maximize the energy that I have to manage my money? So it's all about, keeping it simple. So I choose my bank based on their technology. How easy is it to make transfers from my business accounts to my personal accounts? How easy is it for me to pay my bills, both personal bills and business bills, from inside my checking accounts. Now, let me explain why I bring this up. As you know, I've had multiple businesses over the years, and at this point in my life, I have 11 streams of income. Some of those are more residual, some are passive, some of them are active income streams. So I have uh, 7 accounts where I bank. I bank with Chase. I love Chase. I've been with Chase since I was a teenager when Chase bought my bank in Boulder, where I'm from. I just never left. And I love Chase. So that's where I've opened my business account. So I've got, when I log in, I have one login. And when I log in, I can see my personal accounts. All I have at Chase is a personal checking account and a savings account. And that savings account, when you get into the freebies, you'll see, what are those 3 accounts I need and why? I'm not going to go into it, but it's all in the freebies. And then I've got my business accounts with their own savings, and I have 3 business accounts. And it's easy for me at the end of each month to go in and see, do I have an overage? In other words, do I have more money in this account than I need?
Mm.
Because checking accounts are operating accounts. We do not want to keep excess money in checking accounts, either personal or business, because it's not working for you. And I want your money to work for you. So paying your bills online through your bank account is powerful because it gives you control. You can see when your money is going to leave. You can see it when it gets to your vendor. And when it comes time to do your taxes, you can see all your payments in one place, which again, that's saving time. So that's a really important distinction is find a bank that has good technology where it's easy for you to do the transactions that you need to do.
Yeah, really insightful. And we're almost transitioning here, so I just want to ask one quick question because I think it kind of relates, and uh I think we get questions like this a lot, where this person is asking, I'm having trouble getting approval to open a business checking account, and they're kind of trying to figure out like how can you identify, where there's an issue or what's causing a barrier to accessing these opportunities for wealth creation.
Okay. So if you're having a hard time opening a business account, that creates a question mark in my mind. Why? Why is it hard? Because in order to open a business account, you do need to bring into the bank, make an appointment, because these days you can barely walk into any bank and sit down with a banker. So make an appointment at the bank that you want to open an account with and bring in your paperwork from creating your entity
Mm.
because they are going to open your business bank account in that entity name. So in Colorado, I'm fairly privy to the laws of entity creation because I've created quite a few over the years. I don't know what it's like in each state, but in general, that is the process. Is first you create your business entity, then you bring that paperwork in, and it should not be difficult to open a business bank account. And if it is, ask the banker why. And if they give you an answer that's confusing, email me, Holly at financialimpact.com, because everyone should be able to get a business bank account with the proper paperwork.
Love it. Awesome. Awesome. Holly, this has been so wonderful. Just to close out this conversation before we get a couple questions in, I wanted to, just quickly ask, any last advice you have for women who are on the path to paying themselves on how to, steps they can implement right away to confidently prioritize their own financial stability as they're growing their business.
So I consulted in corporate finance for about 6 years with a tech company that ultimately was sold. And one of the things that I enjoyed about my C-suite team is they were extremely intentional and strategic with when they brought in new expenses. So I know that as entrepreneurs, there are so many things that you feel like you need to do right now. You don't. Choose only the expenses that will impact your bottom line right now. the rest of the stuff, payroll systems, the time off systems, sometimes it's like what's my marketing, what's my CRM, only things that impact your bottom line where you can make more sales right now and bring in more revenue is where you want to put your expenses. All the other things you can bring in when you have the revenue. So when you're thinking about where to spend your money for your business, think about, is this going to directly result in a sale right now, or is it not? And if it's not, find a way to continue doing it manually until you can spend the money on that expense.
Yeah. Oh, such great advice. Love it. All right. So I think we have a couple minutes for a couple questions. If you're in the audience, make sure to drop those questions in the chat or in the Q&A box at the bottom. We'll try to get to as many as possible. And I know we've touched on this a little bit, but I know there are, quite a few entrepreneurs in the audience, women entrepreneurs who are on the pathway to, transition to entrepreneurship full time. And so, any thoughts on just like measures or milestones they can look to that might indicate that they can make that transition?
Yes, when you can pay your minimum bills and spending each month with the revenue that you're bringing in, not just revenue, but with the money left over after you've paid your business expenses, when you can transfer that to yourself as a distribution every month and you can see that consistently you'll be able to pay yourself what you need personally for your bills and spending, that's when you're ready to make the jump and not before. I know there's a lot of temptation and maybe pressure, especially with social media. You see people having these six-figure launches and, don't get caught up in that because truly it does take 1 to 3 years to create a profitable and sustainable business, especially if you are bootstrapping. And I know for me, I left my last full-time job employment in 2013 when I was able to replace that salary with consulting income, but not before. I didn't make the leap before because security. And if you need to moonlight and, drive for Uber, or I always told myself I can go get a job at Target. Like I have the capacity to work more than 40 hours a week. And if I need to do that, I'm going to do that. So don't make the jump too soon because the whole point of, being an entrepreneur and making money is so that you can live the life that you want to live. And life with financial anxiety from someone who's experienced it to the extreme is not fun. So don't put that on yourself. Be patient. Know that entrepreneurship is a ride. And just give yourself grace and know that creating security and stability really is the first step to creating abundance.
Yeah. Ah, such wonderful insight. And just kind of along a similar thread, I think we have time for one more question. We had an entrepreneur that's asking, what what is the number one piece of advice that you would give to a woman business owner who is, just struggling through, paying off that debt, both maybe it's both business and personal, and how to kind of, just maintain resilience through those tough periods.
Don't be afraid to do something different. I mean, if you look at Gen Z and what they're dealing with in the economy that has been created, um, it's a systemic problem. And we're not living in the same economy that our parents and grandparents grew up in. Let's just accept that fact. And I wish that there were more people talking about this. It truly is, it's not you graduate from college, go get your own apartment, get your own job, and then you buy your house after a few years. It doesn't work that way anymore. The world has changed. So if you need to get a roommate, move back in with mom and dad for a period of time, do something to reduce or eliminate one of the top three line items of your budget. And for most people, that's food, housing, and transportation. I'm not saying don't eat. I'm saying there's a whole movement out there called FIRE, any of you have heard of it, Financial Independence, Retire Early. And they advocate for saving 70% of your income by eating beans and rice or ramen, by selling your car and riding a bike or taking public transportation, getting a roommate. I had a roommate for 10 years. 10 years when I was building, toward financial independence. She had cheap rent. She helped me pay my mortgage. It was win-win. So do something different and tell yourself this is temporary because on the other side of what is uncomfortable is everything that you want.
Ah, I love that. Amazing. Holly, this has been so wonderful. So many great little golden nuggets of wisdom. And if you had just one key takeaway that you wanted to leave with the audience, what would that be?
Um, First, I want to say be kind to yourself because you are brave. You are brave just making the decision to be an entrepreneur and birth this idea into the world. That is a big deal. That is legacy. So it's not an easy journey. You can do it. You can do it. You chose this. Hang in there. Be kind to yourself. And the last thing I'll say is a little bit more practical and tactical, and this is the truth. And sometimes we need the truth. That's why we look at where did our money actually go, is every day you are either building wealth or you're not. It doesn't matter how much money you make. What matters is what you keep and what you do with it.
Yeah. Oh, love it, Holly. Thank you so much for such great insight and just setting such an incredible overview on behalf of the NASDAQ Center and everyone here today. We are just so thankful that you joined us.
Well, thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure.
Awesome. And to our audience, we would love for you to join us again for upcoming webinars, which you can view using those links that are going to be in the chat. We've also included the links to all those resources that Holly mentioned in the chat, and we'll follow up with those. And thank you all so much for joining us today. We look forward to welcoming you back online with us soon.